Okay, so this is liable to turn into a fairly lengthy video. It's quite a bit involved in terms of describing how to do all of this. So this is photo stylization practice. And this is your module. This video will be attached right here. And I have some examples here we'll go over in just a moment. So first of all, let me read some of this off to you. You're going to download the following image and open in Illustrator. I'll go ahead and click on that image. It's going to take you to my Google Drive. We're going to find an image to download of a skateboarder. It's a little laggy. All right. So once that comes up, I'm just going to download it here. And that will download to my download folder, which I'll open in just a moment in Illustrator. Let's get back to our module. Since we are working with photographic imagery, one needs to be focused on recreating light and shadow with a range of values. Here's a diagram of a sphere that is labeled with the different parts of light and shadow. 3 values, light, halftone, shadow, can be sufficient to describe the illusion of form. Even 2 values can work, but starts to become even more abstract and flat. So here we see a sphere and it looks pretty illusional and three-dimensional, and all that has to do with the way light strikes the surface, and then shadow is created in the areas that receive less light, and so forth. So as long as we have something like a light area, a halftone, and a shadow, that seems to work pretty good, okay? So we'll talk more about that. Let me just scroll down and show you these examples of these skateboarder images. So that skateboarder image, we don't have to worry about the background. We're just focused on the skateboarder himself. And I want to use these examples that have been turned in the past to kind of talk about for a moment. So let's look at this one right here with the shirt, okay? Now, in the original image, the color was blue, I believe. And obviously, I don't think the skateboarder had pink hair. So you can change the colors if you want to. But notice how the shadow patterns and light patterns are somewhat similar. So they were looking at the same image, trying to think about how to recreate the lights and darks they saw. Now, this person chose 3 values, more or less a light, a shadow, and a halftone, whereas this person did more or less a halftone and a shadow and left out the light. So, like I was saying, even with 2 values, you can pretty much do a pretty good job. In the past, they did 3 values, even 4 if you include that, which that's more or less more of a detail. But then if you look at the arm and the face and the hat on this one, they're just using a gradient. And a gradient can do a pretty good job. Okay, and we're going to talk more about that. And then, sometimes you don't need multiple values. Maybe like in this hair here, sort of a flat value work fine. But what's important is like not only are these describing light and shadow, but look at what those shapes are doing to this image. It's just giving us more to look at. Those shapes are interesting. They have design qualities to them. So now this person got into some of the details of the face. This person really got into the skateboard and the shoes quite a bit. I guess they didn't get around to finishing the face, and this person didn't get around to finishing the skateboard. Now, if we look at the arm on this one, they did do some pretty advanced things here and went in and started describing some interesting light and dark shapes with basically just 2 values and a gradient. This person just used a gradient over here. Now, the skin tones are a little different, and this, in terms of what skin tone you use. You can, work with that and tweak it to what you would like. Again, just like the color that you want, just like the hats are different color and so forth. Now as far as creating these, and it's going to be really important to really think in terms of layering. Um, I think probably, the way this person created, they both created these, where this leg was probably created last, or it was on a layer that was, maybe if they made it, they cut the layer off and then created the shirt and maybe had to go in behind the pant and then use the pant or the leg on top of it. So that maybe there was this path, that connected from here to here on the shirt, so that then they kind of overlapped. So really think of overlapping, I would think the hat would have to probably be on top of the head, and the hair maybe shaped kind of went up under the hat, perhaps. The arm, um, they might have cut the arm off right there to go along with the edge of the sleeve. So, um, as far as having, they could have this shape on top of that, and then this shape behind, whoops, behind this. Um, anyway, just gotta think in terms of layers. That this layer is probably on top of this layer and so forth. Okay. All right. So let's look at that in terms of opening up Illustrator and me demonstrating what this looks like. Okay. Maybe I should turn down my volume a little bit in case somebody else sends me an email. All right. So, um, let's see. Let me get to my downloads, which are right here. I'm going to open that up in Illustrator. So besides light and shadow, detail will be important to kind of help describe your image and give it some interest. Okay, so we've opened up our image and we see this black line here, and that's kind of confusing. That's not part of the photograph. That's actually your artboard, and the photograph is bigger than your artboard. So we need to match those up, okay? First of all, let's use Command R to show our ruler. And I can see this image. The 0 lines up with the artboard. So this goes off to 0, but if this was lined up with 0, I'd say this would be about 9.5 inches wide. So we want to keep that photograph about that size. So we don't want to decrease the photograph. Let's just increase the artboard. So let's go to Document Setup, go to Edit Artboard, and we're going to stretch this out from one. Oops, I'm going to Command Z on that. Let's grab that corner. We'll do the upper left-hand corner and bottom right-hand corner, and we'll go up and hit one of the selection tools to deselect that essentially. Okay. All right. So we got to set up our workspace for this. We're going to be using primarily a couple of things. Okay. We know we're going to be working with layers. Okay. So we need to just go ahead and pull that on out and shut that. And this layer is really small, and we're going to probably using multiple layers. So let's scroll this down or stretch it down or pull it down. And now let's go up here to this little lines with the arrow, and we're going to go down here to panel options. It's going to be best that we make our row size large so that we can see what's in these these layers better. Okay. We could rename this rather, original, or let's just name it photo. And then we can lock it, okay? So we do not want to work on this layer. And now we're going to create a new layer. So we'll come back to layers and talk about that some more in just a moment. We are going to need the gradient tool out here. And let's pull that over here. And we are going to need this. We haven't done anything with swatches, but we're going to need swatches. So we're going to pull that over here. Okay. So set up your workspace like this is what I would advise you to do. Okay. All right. So we're going to focus on the arm on this skateboarder. And I'm going to show you how we can, now in Photoshop, you can create a sort of a folder that can collapse your layers, and you can have less layers open or within your workspace. The only workaround I've found for this is to do something like this, create a new sublayer. So if I do that, that's going to put a layer underneath now that we can work on, okay? And we can make this whole stack that we're about to do, and we'll name this layer the arm, okay? And then what I'm going to do is break the arm up into the 3 different values I'm going to do. Now, if you just want to do 2 values, or if you want to do the 1 value with the gradient in it, that's up to you. But I'm going to do 3 values. So I'm going to do light, and then I'm going to do, which I'm going to put that underneath. I'm going to call that my halftone. And then I'm going to put one above that. I'm going to use my halftone as my base layer because it's mainly what I see is a halftone through most of that. And then this one I'm going to create is called the shadow. Okay. So, all right. So now I'm ready to start going in and creating my shapes. Okay. So I'm going to click on the pen tool, the P key, and then I'm going to go over here and click none for the fill and none for the stroke. And I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to start to create this arm. Now, obviously, the better you do it as you go, the less corrections you'll have to make along the way, or once after the fact. Now, I know this hand is hard to comprehend what is going on. It's rather strange in terms of the viewing of it. I'm going to get rid of this handle. I'm going to go ahead and do that. You should go Shift C to the quick command, get rid of that, go back to the P key, and reconnect right here. Whoops, what just happened? I must not have clicked right on it. There we go. Oops. Now what I'm going to do once I'm done with all this, I'm going to lay in a basic halftone for everything here as sort of a base value, color. I need to go back and do something with that. I'm going to add an anchor right here and move that down. Press pen tool and reconnect again. Messing up here. There we go. Let's try it again. All right, so let's see if I can do a little better with this right here on the arm. Now there is a way I can do this where I can erase. I'm going to show you that real quick. If I extend these down below, I can go click on the eraser, and I don't think I've ever shown this before. Where is the eraser? It must be underneath one of these, and I'm not seeing it. Come on now. I just put something on there now I need to take off. If you ever do that, that's how you get rid of that. I remember one time before it happened, I had no idea how to do to get rid of that. Oh, where is my eraser tool? I should know these things, right? Maybe I can come up here and I can show it. Maybe I'll just press the E key. Nope. Just hoping the E key will get it to me. Eraser tool. Yes. Okay. All right. What is quick command for eraser tool? Shift E. Okay. So I'm going to downsize this. I'm going to take the edge of this eraser right along with that sleeve to kind of cut that shape off. Mine went up a little too far there. But there you go. That does an okay job. Do that. Okay. So I feel pretty good about my shape now. Actually, this needs to come down a little bit. All right, I'm starting to get fuzzy here. All right, I'll leave it be. There's my arm shape. Now, to make a halftone value in here, or color and value, I'm going to go to my eyedropper tool, which is right here. And I'm going to come over here and select part of the skin tone value color to fill this in. And I'm going to use this right here. All right, now notice that looks pretty dark, maybe a little too dark. So like I said, you can tweak it a little bit. So I'm going to go over here and click on that color. And I'm going to maybe intensify and lighten it a little bit. And I feel a little better about that. Okay, so we need to make this into a swatch. And that's what this is all about. We need to make it into a swatch. So I'm going to go over here. And I believe I'm going to click on this. Is that how I do it? I was practicing this earlier and now I've forgotten already. Oh, that's right. I think I click on this right here, new swatch. It's going to take whatever color you have right here and you click on the new swatch and it's going to show you this and you can give it a name. So I'm going to give it a name halftone. Now the reason we're doing this is because later on at some point I'm going to need that color again. If I put my swatches, it will be saved there. So click OK. And then what I can do is I can bring that color. No, I can't. I'm going to create a folder, a group, and this is going to be for my arm. Actually, this would be skin in general. And now my swatch is in that folder, basically. Okay. So I'm going to now, oops, so it looks like I put that on the wrong layer. So now I'm going to need to let's see. I don't know if I can name this one halftone when the other one is halftone. Okay, I'm gonna name this one shadow. Always make sure you're in the right layer. I should have locked these. That way, make sure I wasn't working in the wrong layer. So now I have my halftone layer. Okay, I cut off on the photograph. There it is all by itself. Okay. All right, so let's go with the shadow. And I'm going to cut off the halftone layer. I'm going to go find the shadow area in this area. So here, I'm going to click my pen tool again. Maybe I'll be a little less fussy this time. Okay, so here we go. Oop, cut that off. So what I'm doing is I'm just looking for shapes, to create shadows with. Now I'm having to recreate this contour again, and it may not match up, but once I cut on the other one, I can adjust it to pair up with the actual contour of the arm that I've created first. So this is going to be sort of my shadow shape. Now I'm going to go click on my eyedropper tool and then click on a darker part of that to make my shadow. Now if I cut on my halftone underneath, you can see just how dark that is. So maybe I don't want it that dark. So I might lighten it up a little bit and saturate a little bit. And that might still be a little extreme. So let's do this. Maybe a little oversaturated. Maybe a little too light. Okay, that feels better. Okay, so there's my shadow. Now, I'm going to do one more thing. And I could go on and do the light and more things, but I think this is about all I'm going to show you. And I'm just going to show you what we could do with a gradient on this, okay? As far as making a gradient on this and using my swatches, okay, to help me with this. So, okay, so I need to put this in my swatches. So I'm going to come here and click on new swatch. That is going to be my shadow. We'll go okay, and then drag that down here and put it in that folder with that. Okay, so there's my halftone, there's my shadow. Make sure my halftone is right there. Let me get this back out of here. Halftone, shadow. Okay? All right, so watch this. So how do I get those colors into my gradient for this shape? This is something we haven't done yet, so really pay attention, okay? We have before gone in, and let me just go ahead. If I click on the gradient tool, watch what happens. We lost our color. Now if I click on the gradient tool, that shows up. And so we need the color of that shadow in there. And I would like to put the halftone on this side so it kind of creates a softer edge. But here's what we have. We have white and we have black, right? So how do I get these colors to show up there exactly like that? Now I could click on it and, I could put in the RGB code, but that would be a lot of trouble. Put those numbers in. So why don't I just do this? So when I click down here, why don't I just take this and drag it down and drop it right there? And I'll take this and drag it down to right there. And that's right? Yep. And there we go. Now I need to turn this around. And drag this over here. And now we got the shadow over here, and we got the halftone coming over here. And I can adjust the slider, right, to get more shadow in here. Now watch what happens when I click away, how that looks. See how that creates sort of a softer edge right there, along where it just even kind of blends in. So, Illustrator is going to give you some very hard edges. It's just what it does. That's what it is. And there's ways that we can help with the illusion a little bit, in terms of creating the light and shadow, but also softening some of the edges and create gradients. And I just showed you a really neat trick. Again, know that we can, if I come back and select that area, I select my gradient tool, I can adjust these things here as well. At least I thought I could. Yeah, there it goes. So if I slide these, you can see how it's affecting that. Oops, didn't mean to put another marker in there. Okay. But you can also obviously adjust it here by sliding these around where this is located at in terms of how that gradient affects that area. Cool. All right. We'll leave it at that. And that'll be the end of this video. And I wanted to show you how you can set these layers up. I can lock this now, and I could collapse that. And I can create um, a new layer. Maybe this is going to be the shirt layer, and then maybe I'll create a new sub layer, and this will be my light, and I'll create another layer, and this will be my shadow of my shirt, right? I'll just do 2 values there, right? So, and then you can lock that and collapse that. That way, imagine if I had all these layers sort of exposed, that could be just a lot to look at. Imagine if they were real small. And that's why you went in into the panel options and made those bigger so that then they're not too small to look at, right? Okay. Hope that'll get you going.